Hello everyone. In this video, basically, I'm trying to discuss the concept of net present value, and I won't be taking a lot of time in discussing it because it's a very simple concept, and I want everyone to understand this particular concept. Right. For explaining this particular concept, I'll take two scenarios. Right. I'll be considering two scenarios. Okay. The scenario number one. The scenario number one is I'll pay you $1,000 today. Right. I'll pay you $1,000 today. Okay. The second scenario is I'll pay you $1,025 1 year later. Okay. I think these two scenarios are very clear to everyone. That the first scenario says that I'll be paying you $1,000 today itself, and the second scenario states that I'll be paying you $1,025, but 1 year later. Right. Now the question is which is better? Which one should I opt? Which scenario should I opt? That's a simple question, right? Which scenario should I opt? Right. It's a very simple question. Right. Now there comes two kinds of audience. The first audience is the illiterate audience. Now I'm not saying illiterate means that the person who is not at all educated. I'm just saying who are financially illiterate. And the second audience is the financially literate audience, right? The financially literate audience. Let's first discuss the scenario that is the financially illiterate audience, right? So the scenario one states that I am paying you $1,000 today. The second scenario is saying that I am paying you $1,025 1 year later. Now the financially illiterate audience, they will feel that $1,025 is more than $1,000. Hence, the second scenario is paying me more money as compared to the first scenario. Doesn't matter if it's paying me 1 year later or it's paying me today, but it's paying me more money. Hence, this one is the better one, right? So the illiterate audience, without even thinking much, will opt for the second option, right? Without even thinking, they'll opt for the second option. Now comes the financially literate audience. The financially literate audience will see that, let's say I take $1,000 today itself, right? Let's say I take back $1,000 today itself and reinvest it in the market. Reinvest it in the market, right? Reinvest it in the market. Let's say the market return, that's the I value in the market, is going currently is 10%, right? So basically he'll be able to generate 10% return on whatever amount he invests in the market, right? So what we have realized, so what he sees that I invest $1,000 in the market in return of 10%. So he says that 1 year later I'll be having 1,000 times 0.1, that's a $100 rate of interest. So basically I'll be having $1,100 after 1 year, right? Now this is the difference, right? And he immediately says that I'll opt for the first scenario only. He immediately says that I'll opt for first scenario. Why? What he says that if he gives me $1,000 today itself, I'll invest it in the market, take the 10% interest, which will give me $100. So basically after 1 year I'll be having $1,100. But if I go for the second scenario, which says I'll be paying you $1,025, but 1 year later, so 1 year later, I can actually have more amount as compared to what he is willing to give me, right? And hence, the second scenario is not good, and the first scenario is good if you are a financially literate audience. Now, to explain all this stuff, we use the concept of net present value. Right. Now, what does this net present value state? The net present value basically state that what is the current value? What is the current value considering the future values? Again, I'm repeating it. Let's say we are having certain amount in the future, right? We know that this is the amount, but that is in the future. That is not the current amount. So we think that what would have been the current amount that would have resulted in that particular future amount? What would have been the current amount that would have resulted in that particular future amount? And that current amount, that possible current amount, is nothing but our net present value, right? Now, where is the financially illiterate audience going wrong? The financially illiterate audience is going wrong at this point, that they are comparing two distinct situations. How? They are comparing the situation that is today and the situation that is 1 year later. But actually they should be comparing either the situations today itself, or they should be comparing the situation 1 year later, right? They should be comparing both the scenarios 1 year later or today itself, because they are saying that $1,000, they are saying that $1,000 less than 1,025. I agree, doesn't matter. But the fact is that $1,000 is today and $1,025 is 1 year later, right? And you just can't directly compare them, right? It's just not simple maths. There is a concept of interest in the markets, right? If A is less than B, then A is not better and B is better. This kind of scenario doesn't hold good in a market, because market gives you a concept of interest. You can earn interest if you invest, reinvest, right? And I'm assuming that the person is reinvesting in the market. Let's say the first person, let's the person who takes $1,000, he's financially illiterate, yet he went with good option. Now how he can go wrong? That he decides that I'm getting a liquidity of $1,000, let's keep it with myself at my home. Doesn't care about what interest he can earn on it or no. He just says I'm having $1,000 at my home itself. So again, he's going wrong, because if this is the scenario, then the person who agrees to take $1,025 1 year later, he'll be in a better scenario after 1 year, because the person who didn't reinvested his money still has $1,000 after 1 year, but the person who agreed to take 1,025 1 year later would be having $1,025 1 year later, right? So if that's the scenario, then the second investment is good. But assuming that the person is financially literate, so he'll be taking the money and reinvest it in the market, right? He won't keep his money idle, he won't waste his money, he'll utilize the money, thereby earning interests over it, right? So net present value basically states what current value would have resulted in certain future value, right? So let's say I'm comparing $1,000 and $1,025, right? So $1,000 is the scenario which says today, fine. But $1,025 is 1 year later. So let's calculate what value today would have resulted in $1,025 1 year later, right? So let's assume that value today as X, right? So X value when would have taken an interest of 10% would have resulted in $1,025. If we get 931. Now we can compare these two values, because one investment says that I am ready to give you $1,000 instantaneously. One investment says I am willing to pay you $931 instantaneously. So this way you can say that 1,000 is greater than 931, and hence this is better. This is better. Why? Because this investment, these both the investments are in a similar condition, both are at the t equal to 0 time period, right? Hence you can compare them. And so net present value is a concept for comparing investments, right? It's a concept for comparing investments, right? Comparing investments, right? Not all investments are of the same time period, right? Hence how can we compare the two different investments, right? Definitely the investment that is resulting in a that is for a longer time duration definitely would result in a higher return, but that doesn't mean that that investment is good, right? We have actually seen here that the investment that gives us $1,000 today and the investment that gives us $1,025 1 year later, though the amount that is getting paid to us 1 year later is more than the current amount, yet it's a bad investment, because if we consider the today's amount reinvested in the market, we can generate even more returns as compared to what I am getting from the second investment, right? Hence, the net present value concept says that bring all the values, discount all the values to the current position, discount all the values to the current position, compare the values on a today's basis, don't compare today and tomorrow. Compare either both the values today or both the tomorrow values, right? So net present value states that discount the future values and bring them down to current value. What does it mean? What current value would have resulted in this particular future value, right? And so from that future value we actually calculate the current value, and then we compare two current values, and based on that we decide which one is a better investment and which one is not a better investment, right? So this was the complete concept behind net present value.